Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm live. I'm in my kitchen, and the weather in sunny Salford is mild. Loads of Manchester United news to talk about, but we're going to talk a little bit about where Manchester United are in the league, what's going on with our chances of European qualification, even Champions League qualification next season. Can we dare to dream that Manchester United could be playing in the Champions League next season? Let's have a little bit of a chat about that. We'll look at the fixtures. We'll look at some of the games we've played, some of the games we've got coming up. We'll look at who's available as well, because I know there's been a lot of injuries, players missing AFCON, but some players are coming back. So I think it's worth having this little discussion, because no one's really sort of, in terms of top four, solidified the top four. I know the top three is sort of edging away now. Even the top five, I think fifth could be Champions League qualification. But I think in terms of the chances of getting into the top five, there is a realistic possibility. I think there's a realistic possibility. So we're going to get into it. Good to see so many people in the chat already. Stephen O'Donnell, Isaac Patterson, Puppet Master, Raven78, loads of people in the chat, Mardragon. Right, so the table as it stands, let's just have a look at the Premier League table, which I had up and now I've lost. That's a great start. Thanks. Nice one. Let's bring it up. I think United are in 6th. So the Premier League table, United are in 6th on 29 points, Chelsea in 5th on 29 points, Liverpool in 4th on 32 points. That infuriates me, but that's a different story. Villa, 39 points in 3rd. So there's a big gap between us and Villa. That 10-point gap that they earned, or they cemented when they extended to 10 points when they beat us at Villa Park. Still a little bit annoyed at that one, because I felt we should have got some out of that game, but hey ho. So there's a 10-point gap there between us and 3rd place. There's also a 7-point gap between Liverpool and Villa. So the top three are edging away from everyone else. Chelsea, like I just said, are a level on points with us. They just lost at home to Aston Villa. Bad result for them. Liverpool have got their act together. They're actually in a decent bit of form after a horrendous run. Even Florian Wirtz is scoring, so you know that they're in a good stage when he's scoring. However, let's not forget, they did play bottom place Wolves yesterday, and it didn't have it all their own way. They won 2-1, but people were criticising United when we only won 4-1 away at Wolves. Beating Wolves 2-1 at home when you're the defending champions isn't great. So there's still some chinks in the armour there for Liverpool. I don't think they've completely turned it around and sorted themselves out. Who knows what's going to happen with them this season, especially as well. So this is the thing. We talk about sort of one game a season, one game a week with the Champions League, no Champions League, no European football. I don't think that fully takes effect until you get into the last stages, until you get into the knockout stages. I think then what happens is right now, clubs are almost embracing the fact they've got 2 games a week. You've got a big squad. You've got players at 1 game time. United have suffered from only having 1 game a week because you've got players who aren't getting as many games as they want. So you've got players like Kobe Mainoo's the obvious one, who's not started a Premier League game. Manu Guy, I know a lot of people don't rate him. He doesn't get many games. I know he started with a day, but that's because of injuries. Then you've got other players who are on the peripheral. Lenny Oro should probably be playing a game every week. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he just gets a bit of a cameo. Look at other players now. You've got Martinez back. You've got Shaw, who's been constantly available. There's players there where you go, actually, if United had 2 games a week for now, it could probably work. Other teams, other clubs, they're making it work. However, when you get to the stage where you're getting injuries, you've got to make a decision. You've got a big game in the Champions League and you've got a big game in the Premier League. Which game do you rest it for? That's when I think it's going to really take effect. And that's when hopefully United can use it to our advantage. We'll have to wait and see. But that is my hope. Yeah? It's not expectation. It's my hope that come the end of the season, towards the end of the season, Manchester United can start taking advantage of the fact we've only got 1 game a week. Obviously, we've got the FA Cup. Hopefully, we get through Brighton, but that's not going to be like the Champions League, is it? You don't play an FA Cup game every other week, whatever it is. So, Manchester United, level on points with Chelsea. Now, it's worth noting, Sunderland are 2 points behind us, but they've got a game in hand. They play Leeds today. So, Sunderland are at home to Leeds. Leeds, to be fair, have had an okay each season. I mean, I say okay, the 16th, so it's not like they're setting the world alight. But they've been competing in a lot of games. They've not been they've not done a Wolves where they've just been getting battered. Even some of the games they've lost, they've been competitive. They've just beat Crystal Palace 4-1, drew away at Brentford, drew with Liverpool. That was a big result for them. They were trailing with about 5 minutes to go. They've also beaten Chelsea. So they're on a decent bit of form. They've lost before that. They lost to Manchester City 3-2. Again, though, they made a game of it. So you have to go back to sort of, I think, Villa at home in November and Brighton away where they got a bit of a beating, 3-0, to see when Leeds were really struggling. Of late, they've not been doing too badly. So that's not a given. Anyway, I digress from the whole Sunderland sort of fixture thing. We'll wait and see what happens. We'll find out at 3:30 or 4:45, whatever it is today, when that game's finishing, whether Sunderland have leaped from. I don't expect Sunderland to be right up there all season. I think Sunderland have done very well. Obviously, exceeded all expectations. However, when injuries kick in, if you lose one or two key players when you're a smaller squad like Sunderland, plus just the general fatigue of the amount of games and the pace of the Premier League can catch up with you a little bit. Do I expect them to be in the Champions League or fight for Champions League spots coming in the season? Probably not. I might be wrong, but I doubt it. Brentford, they're another team who have done quite well, haven't they? A lot of people question Keith Andrews. He's going to be able to do it. They've had back-to-back wins. They're up in 8th. Again, they're sort of in around that mix. 1 point behind Sunderland, 3 points behind us. Brentford usually are considered to be a sort of top 10 club, aren't they? Or thereabouts. I don't expect them to be challenging for the Champions League. I don't expect them to get Champions League. Crystal Palace, 1 place further down. They've got 17 games played, so they've got a game in hand. They could go, I think, if they won by more than 2 goals, they could go above us. Look at who Palace have got. They've got Spurs at home. That's a game that they'll fancy themselves for, won't they? Spurs at home, Spurs are in 14. So the teams around us, the clubs around us, are all in with a good shout. However, they're not sort of clubs that you'd associate with being in the Champions League. You don't say, well, Brentford are a Champions League club, Palace are a Champions League club, Sunderland are a Champions League club. Now, you might argue, well, Joe, you've in Manchester United. But United have been in the Champions League at least once every few years. The clubs I've just mentioned are never really in the Champions League. So there is a difference there. And also, you look at the players we've got at our disposal. At the minute, this is almost as bad as it can be for Manchester United. You've lost Bruno Fernandes, which never happened. You've lost his backup in Kobe Mainoo, which that's just bad luck for Kobe Mainoo. He's not started a Premier League game, and the chance he gets, he's injured for. You've got 3 players at the AFCON. How often have I ever said that about Manchester United before this season? Never. Then you've got other key players who are injured, plus their backups. Matthijs de Ligt starts for Manchester United. He's injured. If he's injured, you'd argue, well, Aaron Maguire's probably the backup who starts for Manchester United. He's injured. So you've got this sort of perfect storm or imperfect storm, whatever you call it, where you've got a load of players that are injured. You've got a load of players at AFCON. You've got the backups to the players that are injured that are also injured. So it's not easy for Manchester United at the minute. However, I don't mean to be the prophet of doom. There are some sort of reasons to be relatively cheerful. Apologies as well if you can hear my dishwasher in the background. I keep meaning to get up and turn it off, but we'll soldier on. So United's run now. We've got Wolves at home. That is as big a banker as you can get. There's no excuses. There shouldn't be any excuses. Wolves, despite the fact they put up a decent showing at the Emirates when I watched them against Arsenal, they pushed Liverpool yesterday. They are on course for the worst ever finish in Premier League history. Now, I know we said this. I think we said it about Southampton last season. Southampton got their act together a little bit. Not a lot, but they sort of, by the end of the season, I don't think they were the worst ever Premier League season, were they? However, Wolves are definitely on course for that. They've got 2 points. I think is it 12 games they've lost on the spin. I mean, they're in absolute free fall. They could end up, if they carry on the way things are going, they're going to end up on about 4 points, or 5 points maybe. That is unbelievable. That's the sort of thing where the Premier League look at it and go, we might need to start working out how we're going to do this. We can't have clubs finishing that far away from everyone else. Do we need to sort this out in some way? I don't know what that would look like, but that is drastic. So there's no excuses there. I expect Manchester United to win that one. We're coming off the back of a big win against Newcastle. Yes, the performance wasn't perfect, but it was a win where we're missing key players as well. So we're coming off the back of a win at Old Trafford. I expect us to beat Wolves on Tuesday. Leeds away, that's a difficult one. That's their cup final. I'm not taking anything for granted there. Early kickoff are always a bit iffy, aren't they? I know you not necessarily you play on the Tuesday, you play on the Sunday, you should be well rested. But Leeds away is always a banana skin. I know we've battered them there before, but I think that was during COVID as well. And we've also, to be fair, we've beaten them comfortably when there's crowds in the stadium. However, I'm not taking that one for granted. That could be a tricky one. You've got Burnley away. Again, away games are always difficult, but they're 19th on 12 points. Not exactly flying. You've got the FA Cup game against Brighton. Then you've got City at home. Now, the only good thing about City at home is I expect everyone to be back for that one. Like I'm the manager. I expect everyone to be back for that one. You think the AFCON lads, they should be back, I think, by the 17th of January. Plus, the likes of De Ligt, hopefully we're back. Bruno Fernandes could be back. Mane should be available. We should have more players available for that one. Now, it's still going to be very, very difficult. City are like the opposite of Wolves. City are absolutely flying, winning game after game after game. However, it is a derby. We have beaten City under Ruben Amorim. It's not impossible. And call me deluded, call me naive, whatever you want to say. I still think at Old Trafford, Manchester United should be able to go toe-to-toe with anyone, including Manchester City. I do. I don't think we should be going, well, we're not going to beat City. No, yeah, we can beat City, and I think we should dismiss that idea, even though it's going to be very difficult. So we've got a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the run, but it's not too shabby. Now, you look at the clubs around us. I will get into some of your comments in a minute. And I realise I've been talking for a very long time without going into the comments. Chelsea have got Bournemouth at home on Tuesday. Then they've got City away next Sunday. That's a difficult one for them. So you look at it, you think, could United, if United were to win at Ellen Road, if United were to win against Wolves on Tuesday and beats Leeds at Ellen Road, because you got the early kickoff, and City beat Chelsea, then that would put us in a very, very good position. That would put us, if we were to get 6 points from the next two games, and let's say Chelsea beat Bournemouth and then lost to City, so that would obviously put us 3 points ahead of them. Not too shabby. I know there's lots of ifs and buts and maybes, but this is what we're talking about. We're talking about conjecture, aren't we? Can, will we? Not factual. Let me know what you think. I'm going to get into some of the comments now because I realised I've spoken quite a lot. Let me know what you think about this group of players, about the manager, about our prospects, about our rivals. Because, like I said earlier, other than City, Arsenal, and to a lesser degree, Villa, the top four hasn't been settled. That's the top three, obviously. But the top four, there's still that fourth and fifth place very much up for grabs. Even the third place. I'm not writing that off yet. That maybe not for United, but for anyone, that Villa are going to stay there all season. They could get injuries. They've got a very good smallish squad. They've got a good group of players, haven't they? They've not got the smallest squad. They've got a lot of players in Colobon. But they've all, like any club, they've got, or any team, they've got players they rely on. And if any of those players are missing, then they're going to struggle a little bit. Villa are a very sort of good team in making the sum of their parts work well together. I think when you look at that list of Villa players, they've got good players. You look at it, you go, okay, Emi Martinez, decent keeper, Petty Reich. You look at someone like Matty Cash, good fullback, decent. John McGinn, industrious midfielder, good midfielder, pretty decent one. Morgan Rogers, who obviously caused United a load of problems. He's having a very good season, a very good player, but I don't think he's unbelievable. And that's not me being bitter if the fact he scored 2 goals against us. What I'm saying is they've got a lot of good players and it works well together for them. I don't think they've got a team of will beaters. But if they were to lose 1 or 2 players, would that come on score? Would that be okay? I think that you can look at Villa and say, okay, there's every chance they finish third, there's every chance they keep it up. There's, I know Villa fans were singing we're going to win the league yesterday when they beat Chelsea. I don't know if that's going to happen. But there's also the chance that they fall off and that third place becomes up for grabs. So I just want to know what you guys think. Wayne Davies says, we simply can't lose to Wolves, but this United team are capable of losing to anyone. That is a fair point. John McGuigan says, over from Belfast, game on Tuesday. If we keep another clean sheet, we'll get it done. It'd be great to get back-to-back clean sheets. I know that, it's like the old Punk Mauling from the wire. It makes me sick how far we done fell. Actually, hoping that we can somehow get back-to-back clean sheets as Manchester United fans is beyond the pale. But this is where we're at. And it's doable, isn't it? You'd fancy us getting a win against Wolves. Why not a clean sheet? That could sort of maybe silence some of the noise about this season. Jay, it's week by week, mate, says Evan Lotos. Yeah, it is week by week, but we can talk about it still. Fifth gets Champions League as well. No, says ADSXX. I think you have to look at the coefficient and what goes on there. Florence Missoula. Hi, Jay, watching from Nairobi, Kenya. It's pouring rain here. Hope the weather's good there. It's pretty mild here, actually. The sun's come out in sunny Salford. I'm going to go for a run shortly. I think it's us, Liverpool, and Chelsea for the last 2 spots, says ADSXX. For all the Liverpool chatter that's been going around, they are in top 4, says APK 1204901. ADSX also says, I think we need a CM to push for a Champions League spot. Not the worst idea I've heard. Yastra Damas 1 says, on my way to Marrakesh to watch Ahmad versus Mbumo, hoping they both score and both lose. Omar says, Jay, I got gifted the Stretford Paddock hoodie in green and yellow by my fiance for Christmas. Absolutely love it. Thank you, Omar. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you loved it. And thank you to you and your fiance for supporting the channel. Obviously, it's not just supporting the channel. You're getting some good merchandise as well. Let me just see if I can find a link. There we go. I'll stick a little link in the chat if anyone wants to get themselves or anyone else a gift for, well, not for Christmas. Obviously, Christmas has been and gone. Maybe an early New Year present or whatever. So we get it. There's lots of ifs and buts and maybes here. There's lots of caveats. One sort of positive we can say is, despite all the issues we've got, despite all the problems we've got with players being out and players being injured, Lisandro Martinez coming back in the team, I think is massive. I love Lisandro Martinez. Anyone who watches Stretford Paddock knows how much I love Lisandro Martinez. I just think the guy's different grade. And I'm not alone. It's not like, oh, Jay, you're so insightful. I think most United fans adore the butcher. But I almost think at times, and I said this the other day, it gets forgotten about just how important he is for this team. I think people don't realise, just some people, not all of us, how vital he is and how much of a difference he makes. His organisation, his passing, his control, his sort of composure under pressure, his ability to pick out a pass and break through the lines with those passes. Obviously, his tackling and his defensive attributes are fantastic as well. And the fact that, okay, he's only 5'9" or whatever he is, but he wins a lot of aerial duels. Even your man, what's his name? Walter Mardy didn't get any change out of him the other night for Newcastle. So having Lisandro Martinez back is so important. I don't think it's any coincidence. The last few seasons, the only time United finished in the top 3 was when Martinez played about 3/4 of the season. Would United have finished in the top 3, third, let's be honest, third, if Martinez hadn't played all those games? No, I don't think we would have. I don't think whoever would have been backup would have been a good enough player for us to do what we did with him in the team. I don't think we'd have won the FA Cup final against City if he hadn't come back into the team. I think he's a fantastic player. Having him back is huge. If you can get him and De Ligt in the defence together, I am going to be very, very happy. I won't be alone. I think most United fans will, because De Ligt is a superb player who's doing really well for us. We need him back. Hopefully, we'll find out more from the manager when he next speaks. We can get De Ligt back in his side. That's going to be a massive boost. Then, of course, further down the line, when you get Mbumo back, when you get Ahmad back, that gives you help as well. One thing I will say as well, which I think is another positive for United, if we can just try and be positive for a bit, I think Cunha is beginning to look like the player that we saw at Wolves. I do. I think game by game, you're seeing you're seeing little moments from him, seeing bits where you go, okay, this guy is getting into his flow. He's becoming that player that we saw at Wolves, that we wanted from Wolves. He has struggled a little bit at times at Manchester United. I don't think that's harsh. I think we've seen it. We've seen games where he's not really been at it. He's not really, been at the races or whatever, or he's struggled a little bit. But I think he's adapted well. I think he's getting used to the size of Manchester United. It's not easy coming from a club like Wolves, no disrespect to them, but let's be real, to somewhere like Manchester United. Big money, a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure, but he's doing well. What do you think? Undiscovered Genius 363 says, second half of the season, we are doing a title charge. Ads XX says, who's your preference, Jay Wharton or Anderson? Anderson is my preference. Whenever I watch him, I'm usually impressed. Wharton does all right as well. When I've watched him, I've not watched loads of him, but I think Wharton is a good player, and I won't be moaning if we got him. I just think Anderson, for me, suits more of what Ruben Amorim is trying to do. And even if you were to be sort of long-term ish around this and say, okay, what if Ruben Amorim's not around? I think Anderson can play in any system. He's one of those players, and I think he's just a superb footballer. Rockstar says we need more physicality and composure in our midfield. Edison and Holman are the best ones we can have in our team. Whilst the MUFC says Cunha has been the signing of the season, just hasn't had the numbers to back it up. It's a great point, this, right? Because sometimes, and I can be guilty of this as much as anyone, you get caught up in the whole numbers thing, don't we? Stats, how many assists has he got? How many goals has he got? And you know, there is value in those statistics. I'm not saying you just ignore them. As an attacker, you eventually have to score goals and get assists. Otherwise, what are you doing? You can't just not do that. It is an important part of your game, especially for a forward player, obviously. However, it doesn't give you the full story. And I always cite back to that Liverpool game at Anfield, where Matheus Cunha, I don't think he scored or got an assist, but his performance was fantastic. He constantly kept hold of the ball, especially when Manchester United were under pressure. He was a good outlet for the team. He did everything you could want from him, other than score and get an assist. But it was a very, very good performance. But then when you look at it, you go, well, did he get a goal and assist? So stats don't show that he didn't have a good game. Well, he did have a good game if you watch it. It's the same when you look at, for example, another good example of it is Sesko against Chelsea. Did he get a goal? No. Did he get an assist? No. But it was his flick on that got on Bumo, the Bumo, that ended up getting the red card. It was a red card. It was a vital moment in the game. It was an important moment in the game. It was more or less the moment of the game. That is where Chelsea lost that game. Sanchez gets sent off. Maresca panics as well and does defensive substitutions. Plus, they lose Cole Palmer. Game's won. I know we went down to 10 later on in the half. I felt sorry for Sesko because he ended up getting the curly finger at half time, didn't he, to make some changes. But that was an important moment. And sometimes if you watch the games, you get a bit more context. So Cunha hasn't been great for every game. I think that's safe to say. But he has had games where he has been great. He might not have had the goals or assists necessarily, but he's put in a performance. Dylan says Cunha has an infectious game. When he beats players, he gets a crowd up and it lifts the performance of our team. Red Baron says it's TikTok generation. People don't like to think past a certain point. I get that. The postcast, I like that one, says Belabor, if he can wake back up. Yeah, been a bit weird on it with Belabor. He just fell off a cliff, hasn't he? Now, I can't remember which player we were talking about. Oh, yeah, I think it was Ronnie. We were talking about Yuri Tillemans. Now, I like Yuri Tillemans. I think he's a very, very good player. And I think whenever I've watched Villa, he turns up. Like literally every game I've watched Villa. I've not watched Villa like loads, but I've seen a few games of him. And I think Tillemans always looks like a useful player. Very, very good on the ball. Can put a tackle in when needed. Can carry the ball. He's got a bit of everything. Yeah, bit of everything about him. Now, I watched him last season at Leicester, and he was shocking. We were linked with him. And there's probably a video of me somewhere outside Old Trafford saying we've been linked with Yuri Tillemans for 40 million quid. No chance, not for me. Because he was underperforming at Leicester. And this is what Ronaldo was saying the other day. Sometimes players get their head turned, aren't feeling it with the manager. Just, I've had enough of the club they're at. I feel it's time to move on, and that can affect the performance. Now, I'm not saying it's right, and I always think as a player, you should put a shift in for whatever club you're at. You owe it to the fans, you owe to earn the wages you paid. You paid a lot of money, and you should earn that. However, it happens, whether we like it or not. Players are only human. I get it. So, is there a case in that with Belabor? Is he just a bit miffed he's not moved in the summer, or maybe not miffed, just had his head turned a little bit, and he's sort of taking his eye off the ball somewhat? I don't know. Let me know what you think. He's just not having a great season, is he? But let's not forget as well. Did Casemiro have a good season last season? Did all right in the Europa League, didn't he? Did he have a good season? I'd say not really. You could even argue the season before he didn't. This season, he's having a good season. He's been very, very useful for Manchester United. Laura 170609 says, "Love Tillemans." Yeah. I wonder why she's a big Belgian fan. So, Yuri Tillemans. No, I don't know why she supports Belgium. It's a long story. The postcast says Cunha and Mount. Mount is another one. I'm glad you brought him up. Set the tempo in games. Leach keeps the mentality and demands it. Get MDL in there with him. Brian in with Cunha and Mount, all consistently firing, and we can cruise. But big gives. Yeah, Mason Mount. Good point. Deserves a shout out. Fantastic this season. I think he has. I've had question marks about Mason Mount almost since he arrived, to be honest with you. I was a bit underwhelmed with the idea of signing him. Thought he was all right. Chelsea a few times, looked decent. I thought, did we really need him? Because it felt like he was going to be playing in the same position as Bruno. The manager seemed to have ideas of playing him a bit deeper. Didn't really work. Then he got injured. We saw glimpses of Mason Mount, what he could do, but nothing really consistently. And that season where we won the FA Cup, he barely featured. I remember him coming on against Liverpool at Old Trafford in the 4-3. He didn't touch the ball for about 15 minutes. So you're thinking, is this signing going to work out? This season, though, because a lot of it was injuries, to be fair to the kid. This season, it's been consistently playing well. Massive bonus for Manchester United and Ruben Amorim. You need him. Red Baron says, I think I'm giving the World Cup a miss. It seems fucking stupid with so much corruption around it, Jay. The World Cup is the World Cup, and it's been like that for quite a while now. The whole Qatar thing, a lot of people are upset about workers' rights, about the rights of the LGBTQ community in Qatar. I get it. I understand it. Someone who considers themselves, to the left of politics, I think you should always defend and stick up for workers' rights and also for any minority. So I get why a lot of people are like, you know what, I'm not bothered with the World Cup this year. Eric Cantona spoke up against it, about it, and Eric Cantona, when he speaks, that is the word of God. That's not me speaking, that's official, that's a fact. And I think this year, you're looking at it with America. It's been at America before. I'm old enough to remember the 94 World Cup when England didn't qualify and everyone was Irish. This feels a little bit different there, and I'm not saying America was amazing in 1994, but this season, I think this summer, certain fans can't travel to watch the games. I think you're not allowed, like a country ban is there for certain teams or certain nations. And you see a lot of what's going on. So I can understand why people are looking at it with the corruption side of things. Donald Trump, whatever you think about Donald Trump, you've got the FIFA Peace Award. It all seems a bit weird. So I understand why people put off. My attitude towards the World Cup is not to be all top red, but I just want United players to emerge from it unscathed, because I remember when David Beckham had effigies hanging of him. And you don't even need to be that old to remember when it wasn't the World Cup, it was the Euros, but the likes of Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford were getting some trolling on social media. I remember Wayne Rooney getting a load of stick after South Africa. You just want United players to go to the World Cup, potentially do well. Marcus Rashford got reinvigorated at the last World Cup, didn't he? Come back ready for the next season. That's what you hope. Because I remember when Paul Pogba had a great World Cup in 2018, won it. I couldn't wait for him to come back to Old Trafford. I thought, this is going to be great. A World Cup winning midfield. We just had a fantastic tournament. We just finished second. We're thick on now. Everything's going to be great. And he came back and he basically fell out with the manager. There was all this drama going on about him, getting fined or whatever, or not getting fined, and all this other nonsense. And it was just obvious that he's out really seeing it with Jose Mourinho anymore or with the club anymore. Kind of had the opposite effects of what you'd expect. The podcast says, if Ireland gets the World Cup, we're all having a party. Get the Irish back at United too. Club before country, says James McGrogan. Notches in the chat, morning all. They seem to be a big divide between England and United, to be honest. There is a reason we shout Argentina, from which, in my opinion. There's always been a bit of a divide there. I think, always. I remember it since 98. There was a divide there. United fans have never been too enamored of England. I think you can support England. I am England. If I do want England, if I had to pick a country I want to win the World Cup, it would be England. I don't feel the same way towards England as I do towards Manchester United. I just don't. Meadow Dead says, we've not had a World Cup in the UK since 1966. How many times has the US had it now? I think this is the second time, I believe. 94 and 2025. Notch late after delivering presents, says Sleep Joe James John. I was going to get into some news stories, right, but I don't think I'm going to bother. To be honest with you, it's the same old, isn't it? Should we wait? Wait till tomorrow. We've got the news outside Old Trafford, so I don't think there's anything major going on at the minute. But we can round it up tomorrow outside Old Trafford and get into it then and see what's going on. This has been more of a discussion about Manchester United's prospects on the top four. I feel like there's a lot of positivity, realism. You can be realistic and positive, but people like feeling, you know what? It's not beyond the realms of possibility. That can only change if we don't beat Wolves, but hopefully we will. I think we can. We should do. So yeah, we can get a result against Wolves. Then who knows? If we get back-to-back clean sheets, do we dare to dream? Oh, not says he's signal failure. Thanks, Knox, for joining the chat. Thanks to everyone who joined the chat. I had a really good discussion. I enjoyed that. Good little chat about Manchester United's prospects. We'll see where we end up. We'll see what's going on over the next few weeks. Big few weeks. I say this every week, don't I? But with the Wolves game and Leeds, and then obviously the FA Cup game, some big games coming up. Hopefully, Manchester United can emerge from them victorious and have a run towards Champions League football. We need Champions League football back at Manchester United, man. Seriously. If we got the Europa League, you go, okay, considering where we finished last season, that's, it's not too shabby, but I want to hear that Champions League music back at Old Trafford. I've J. Motty. This has been the paper. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.